11 years, between 2007 and 2018, Wade held some of the most challenging and complex policy and political ministries of government, including for police and corrections between 2014 and 16, and more recently as Minister for Industry, Employment and Resources in 2016 to 17. Wade was universally recognised and respected for his integrity and his professionalism. Since leaving Parliament, Wade has balanced his time across a number of significant roles, including at RMIT Uni, where he's the Associate Director of Social Enterprise and Investment, and also at WMEDA, the West of Melbourne Economic Development Alliance, where he's Executive Director. And it's in that capacity that Wade will be speaking with us today. In addition, he currently serves on a number of boards and advisory groups in the public health and not-for-profit sectors, including with Brimbank and Western Bulldogs Community Foundation. He's the #1 ticket holder for the Williamstown Football Club and an ambassador for the Indigenous Marathon Foundation. Please welcome Wade, who will talk about the bigger picture for Brimbank and the Western region today, including some of the opportunities that are expected to flow from the Northwest City deal. Welcome to you, Wade.
Thanks, Jason, for that very warm and fine and long introduction. It makes me feel a bit old when you run through all of that, and I'm glad you mentioned my involvement with the Indigenous Marathon Foundation, which is something very close to my heart, so it's an appropriate place to start by acknowledging the traditional owners, as others have during this session, and pay my respects to any elders that might be with us. And step us into my presentation. Before I get into the detail, I just want to congratulate Brimbank City Council and stakeholders today. Look, it's been a difficult year, but I've watched with some admiration in relation to the way the Brimbank City Council have provided this wonderful level of leadership through their officers and their councillors and mayor and CEOs. So in particular around the COVID response, but also maintaining a very strong focus on social justice and inclusion, which is absolutely appropriate, not just in Brimbank, but across Melbourne's West. And also crafting a really exciting vision for Brimbank going forward. We understand that there are lots of challenges, but they've also got a very strong and positive view about the future. And what I want to present to you today is something that I've been working on with a number of stakeholders across Melbourne's North and West to carve out, a longer term vision for our region, being Melbourne's West from 2020 to 2040. And I'll explain why we've done this work. But before I step into it, I did see that one of my colleagues, Sue LaGreca from Lead West, who's been really quite critical to the creation of this document, is also with us this morning. So a special shout out to Sue LaGreca. Brooke's also helping me with the slides. So I'm going to get Brooke to take us to the second slide, which is really what the outline of my presentation is today. That is, who is WMEDA? What is a city deal? I'll give you a bit of background to it and tell you how we've structured our governance to prepare this particular proposal. I'll talk to you about the scope, some of the transformational projects in Melbourne's West. I'll touch on Sunshine, given the audience today. I'll talk to you about the launch, which many of you might have seen, and the key messages we used and what the budget has yielded recently and where we might be going from here. Next slide. Thanks, Brooke. So, who is WMEDA? Well, up until 2017, we actually didn't have a regional grouping in Melbourne's West just focusing on economic development and jobs. Now, I know this seems quite extraordinary and there are other very good regional groups, but this group was formed essentially just to focus on how do we grow jobs. And you heard from Lindley about the pressures of unemployment in our region. So we're a very small outfit, but we've got a very strong independent board, which is chaired by Steve Brack's former Premier, but it also has all of the leaders from the various large-scale employers across Melbourne's West. So I speak of Western Health, Victoria University. I talk about leaders from Lead West, which I mentioned at the introduction, the Western Bulldogs CEO, local businesses, and of course your very own CEO, Helen Morrissey of Brimbank, is also a member of our board. So we only have a small staff. I'm one of two part-time staff, and our primary objective is to try and influence new economic development opportunities for Melbourne's West. But to put it in very straight, crude terms, it's about creating more local jobs close to where people live and a greater diversity in the job opportunities for people in Melbourne's West. We've done this by releasing a number of reports where we use an economist and our board, and we do a bit of stakeholder discussion as well, just at a high level. We started in 2017 with an economic blueprint for Melbourne's West, but we've also released a number of other reports, and you'll notice that Sunshine Daring to be Great, which is one that we released about this time last year, created a lot of interest and discussion around the future of sunshine, which is exactly what WAMETA exists for and exactly what we want to be doing, talking very positively about the opportunities in Melbourne's West and particularly in Brimbank. Moving on to the next slide, and that is to talk about this city deal. The city deal is essentially a policy creation of the federal government, the Morrison government. What it's designed to do is to bring three levels of government together with the community to work out a shared vision for productive and livable cities. I think I've lifted that straight off their website. You can tell it's government speak, but it's really about bringing the forces of three levels of government together. And what it's about is about sort of alignment around planning, investments, accelerating growth and job opportunity, and stimulating urban renewal and driving economic reforms. There has been 8 city deals done across Australia. Only one has been done in Victoria so far, and that's been done in Geelong. Had a high focus on tourism, including in Geelong and the Great Ocean Road as well. What it's done is it's brought $370 million worth of investment to that region. So when we're talking about city deals, we're talking about big bickies, because the most recent city deal that was done has been done in Perth, announced I think last month, worth about 1.5 billion, and a really high focus on universities' skills and bringing people into central Perth. So there are a number of phases to a city deal. Usually the first phase is essentially an MOU or a statement of intent between the three levels of government to move forward. Then there's usually a fairly long and extensive period of discussions with stakeholders, including many that would be on this forum today. And then once that is done, then you're into implementation by way of annual progress reports. And most city deals are 5, 10, in some cases up to 20 years long, depending on the breadth or investment involved in those city deals. Next slide, thanks, Brooke. The background to this has been fairly extensive. So there has been various delegations from Melbourne's West and North, up to Canberra, up to Spring Street, to talk about the importance of our growing area. We had a breakthrough in May last year when Minister Tudge, the federal minister, wrote to all of the local government and advocacy lead bodies in Melbourne's North and West, and basically said if they were elected again, they would seek to deliver a city deal in Melbourne's West. There's been a number of roundtables, as you would expect, just sort of to scope out how this would work. And that has triggered essentially a number of groups, which I'll explain shortly, to come together in Melbourne's North and West to try and work out how we would approach a city deal and what would be in it. I think it's probably worth noting the very last item on this particular slide indicates that just a week ago, Minister Tudge's office indicated that they intend on proceeding with a city deal with a hope to securing an agreement across all three levels of government in the first half of 2021. The reason that's significant is like everything else that's happened this year, COVID has really put a spanner in the works. So where we thought we might be proceeding at a more accelerated rate, they've had their focus elsewhere, as has the state government, as has local government. Important to note that city deals are very much alive and well, and there is an intention to move one forward in Melbourne's West. Next slide, Brooke. So governance, think about Melbourne's North and West, think about how extraordinarily large Melbourne's North and West is and how quickly it's growing, and how hard it is potentially to get an alignment of views across all of the various groups that exist in Melbourne's north and west. What we did is we set up a steering committee and working party, which on the western side has involved Wymeda, which I'm representing, Lead West, and I mentioned Sula Greca and Victoria Universities. We thought we needed some champions. Every time Steve Brack speaks about something in Melbourne's West, it seems to make either the front page of the Herald Sun, or it's spoken about on radio all day, or it's on TV. So having people like Steve Bracks, John Brumby, who's the Chancellor at La Trobe University in Melbourne's North, and Senator Scott Ryan, who has his office in Melbourne's North and West, or Northwest in Moonee Ponds, having people like that talk about our region in a really positive way has been quite critical, as I'll show you later on in relation to the launch of our work to date. Next slide goes to the scope of our work. Now, we have had worked intensively across 4 or 5 months to prepare a report. What that looked at is both the strengths and the challenges. So what are the things that are happening in Melbourne's West? Where are our competitive strengths? What infrastructure is coming to our region? What will that enable to happen when it's invested? We looked at all of the strengths and challenges in our area. Again, we want to paint a really positive view of what our region has to offer. So in thinking about the theme, and I talked about Geelong having a sort of a focus on the visitor economy, the 4 themes that our group across Melbourne's North and West believed that there was strong alignment were around a city deal that would focus on the future economy. It needs to be recognised that more people leave Melbourne's West, they commute to get work, than any other region of Melbourne or Victoria. That's a really big challenge. It means that lots and lots of people are working in Melbourne's West, and lots of people have skills in Melbourne's West and experience, but there's not enough local jobs in our region to basically cater for the population that's here today and the population that is growing over the next 20 years. In order for people to work and for people to invest and organisations to invest in Melbourne's West, you need to have good transport and connectivity. You need to not just be able to move people from Sunshine to the CBD, you need to be able to move them around Melbourne in multiple modes of transport. Yes, the airport rail link is really critical, but that's why suburban rail link and other investments are really important as well. Health and wellbeing, and also livability, things such as housing as well. The rationale for investment in this area is really about jobs and growing 300,000 jobs to match population growth. Our focus here is really around making Sunshine, Werribee, Footscray and Melton our economic beating hearts of Melbourne's West. They are the precincts that we want to grow, and we've listed both transformational and enabling projects that will bring those economic precincts to life. Next slide, and I'm conscious of time. Some of the big transformational projects that we're pushing in Melbourne's West are already happening or are in stages of going to happen. But Westgate Tunnel, notwithstanding its challenges, will be a vital second river crossing, very important for the freight industry. That will grow jobs. Melbourne Airport Rail Link. We're building the biggest hospital in the state in Footscray, and recently we also were pushing and were successful in getting another hospital to be built for Melton. There are a number of other projects there on the transformational list. I won't go through them all, but you can see them for yourself. Moving to Sunshine, which is a focus for us, Airport Rail Link and the Suburban Rail Link will absolutely transform Sunshine forever, and in fact make it the capital of Melbourne's West, very much akin to Parramatta in Sydney. There is a need to significantly boost jobs in the local area, but also address the social disadvantage, diversify housing stock, and address livability gaps such as open space and recreation. The City Deal proposal priorities for Sunshine beyond the rail, we did put St Albans Health and Wellbeing Hub. We see the strong benefit of that for the community. We want to create a Jobs Institute in Brimbank, and we want to create a very significant regional sports facility as well. Now, there are many other things that we could put in a City Deal, but we've got to prioritise and spread the love across Melbourne's west and north. Next slide, just a couple to go. That's a map, essentially, where all of the projects are under our report. Next slide goes to the media in terms of the launch on the day when we released this, front page, double page spread. Lots of interest in Melbourne's media about the growth and opportunities in Melbourne's west. The messages on the next slide are really about saying we have a very large and diverse population. 1 in 3 Victorians will live in Melbourne's north and west, and our area is expected to grow to be about bigger than South Australia over the next 20 years with 1 million extra residents. That's why we need 300,000 extra jobs. Just finally, the budget. Good outcomes in the budget, and there's no doubt that our City Deal plan is already being recognised for including some important projects. I think that, as Lindley said, what you've got is setting the foundations for COVID recovery, but some regional outcomes of significance for Melbourne's West that come through, particularly from the state. Funding for land acquisition and early works for a new hospital in Melton, the redevelopment and expansion of the Whitten Oval in Footscray worth about 60 million. Richard Ponsford from Melbourne West Tourism will be very happy about the expansion of the Werribee Open Range Zoo, moving the elephants from Parkfield down to Werribee. It will generate new jobs and economic opportunity. There's a major new justice precinct coming in Werribee, almost 200 million for that. First stage of Werribee Western Rail plan, fast rail to Geelong. That'll go all the way through the west and create almost 3,000 jobs. 52 new mental health beds, and I'm sure Emma King will talk about the social housing dwellings, and Brimbank and Maribyrnong are priority areas in our part of the world. It's an outstanding budget for Melbourne's West. Just the final slide is our next step. We're daring to be great at WAMEDA, and I know Brimbank is as well. Our time has come. And we've waited a long time, and sometimes it does take 20 years to be an overnight sensation, but it's our time now, and we're daring to be great and think big. We do want to secure more than $1 billion worth of new investment in this city deal for our region, and we do want to accelerate the delivery of major infrastructure and investment with a high focus on jobs, and we'll work closely with our partners to maximise every single opportunity for Melbourne's West.